All right, here we go. Not what I wanted. Let's try this again. Okie dokie. The winds howled, a mournful dirge across the desolate moors, whipping tendrils of mist round gnarled trees and crumbling rocks. In this forsaken corner of the world, shrouded in perpetual twilight, lived Grendel. He was a creature woven from the nightmares of men, his form a grotesque tapestry of muscle and sinew. He bore the scars of countless battles, but none were won for glory or honor. All were fueled by a primal rage that burned within him like a dying star. Grendel wasn't born to this desolate existence. Legends whispered of a time before when he roamed the fringes of human settlements, a solitary being ostracized for his monstrous features, but not inherently evil. However, the whispers spoke even louder of a lineage tainted, some claiming him a descendant of Cain, the first murderer, forever cursed to walk a path of violence. Isolation gnawed at Grendel's soul, twisting his loneliness into a festering resentment. Every night carried the faint yet unmistakable sounds of merriment, the booming laughter of men, the clanging of tankards, and the strumming of a joyous lute. The sounds emanated from Heorot, a magnificent mead hall built by Hrothgar, the king of the Danes. Heorot pulsed with life, a beacon of warmth and camaraderie in the otherwise desolate landscape. Today, we are going to learn about the legend of Grendel. The joy of Heorot was a constant reminder to Grendel of everything he lacked. He yearned for the warmth of human connection, the camaraderie of the warriors, the simple pleasure of a shared meal and a hearty laugh. Yet his monstrous form, his grotesque visage, made him an outsider, forever condemned to lurk in the shadows, ostracized and shunned. One night, fueled by envy and despair, a decision hardened in Grendel's heart. He wouldn't be ignored any longer. He wouldn't be ostracized. He would crash this party not as a guest, but as a conqueror. Under the cloak of a starless night, Grendel lumbered towards Heorot. The closer he came, the clearer the sounds of revelry reached him, each burst of laughter, each joyous song, grating on his nerves like fingernails on a chalkboard. With a surge of primal rage, he slammed his massive fist against the oak doors of Heorot. The building shuddered. The warriors were stunned momentarily. Then the doors splintered inwards, showering the feasting hall with a torrent of splinters and moonlight. Grendel emerged, a monstrous silhouette, framed against the night sky, his eyes burning red. The warriors, a collection of hardened men who had faced countless foes, froze in terror. And this was no ordinary foe, but a nightmare made of flesh. A guttural roar erupted from Grendel's throat, shaking the rafters of Heorot. Panic erupted from the warriors. Swords were drawn, but fear made their hands tremble. They were lions facing a dragon. Grendel, impervious to their fear, surged forward, a whirlwind of rage and destruction. He snatched a warrior, a burly man known for his strength, with one hand and lifted him high. The warriors' struggles were futile, and with a sickening crunch, Grendel bit down, the sound echoing through the hall like a death knell. The warriors, overcome with fear, watched in horrified fascination as Grendel devoured their comrade whole. The massacre continued. Grendel tore through Heorot like a hurricane, leaving a trail of death and despair in his wake. Fear turned to desperate resistance as warriors, fueled by a primal rage to survive, attacked with anything they could: torches, chairs, bare fists. But their attacks were like pebbles against a mountain. Finally, satiated by his carnage, Grendel let out a thunderous roar and lumbered out of Heorot, leaving behind a scene of devastation. The once joyous hall was now a charnel house, the stench of blood and death hanging heavy in the air. Hrothgar the king sat amidst the carnage, his face etched with despair and a deep sense of helplessness. Heorot, his pride and joy, now stood as a monument to his failure to protect his people. News of Grendel's rampage spread like wildfire, igniting a flicker of fear in the hearts of men across the land. Bards sang mournful ballads of the fallen warriors, their voices echoing a question that gnawed at everyone. Could this monstrous creature ever be stopped? Well, the answer came from an unexpected source. Across the vast sea in the land of Gitz, a young warrior named Beowulf heard the tales of Heorot's desolation. Unlike the warriors of Heorot, who were paralyzed by fear, Beowulf saw an opportunity to etch his name in legend. He wouldn't be deterred by stories of a monster. He would face the beast head on. With a band of his most trusted warriors, Beowulf set sail across the choppy seas, the icy wind whipping at his face. The journey was arduous. a test of their strength and resolve, yet Beowulf remained undeterred. His gaze fixed on the distant shores of Denmark, where Heorot stood as a silent testament to Grendel's barbarity. Upon reaching the Danish lands, Beowulf and his men were greeted with a mixture of trepidation and hope. Hrothgar, his spirit crushed by the tragedy, looked upon Beowulf with a weary gaze. He saw in the young warrior's eyes a flicker of the same fiery spirit that had once resided within himself. But Hrothgar also saw the potential for another valiant life lost to the monster's insatiable hunger. Despite his reservations, Hrothgar welcomed Beowulf and his men with open arms. A grand feast was laid out in Heorot, a stark contrast to the carnage that had unfolded just nights before. The warriors, emboldened by Beowulf's presence, found solace in shared stories and the warmth of camaraderie. As the feast reached its climax, Beowulf, his broad frame dwarfing even the largest warriors, rose to address the gathering. His voice, deep and resonant, boomed through the hall. He spoke of his unwavering courage and his resolve to vanquish the beast that plagued them. His words, imbued with conviction, rekindled a spark of hope within the hearts of the Danes. That night, under the watchful gaze of a full moon, Beowulf, accompanied only by a single warrior, stood vigil in Heorot. The once joyous hall now held a different kind of energy. It was an electric tension that crackled in the air. The silence was broken only by the rhythmic roar of the ocean in the distance. And as the night deepened, a monstrous shadow fell upon Heorot. Grendel, drawn by the scent of fresh prey, emerged from the darkness. His eyes, burning embers in the moonlight, locked onto Beowulf, and a guttural growl escaped his throat. The warriors who accompanied Beowulf fled in terror, leaving the hero alone to face the monstrous beast. Beowulf stood firm, a monument of unwavering courage. Unlike the warriors of Heorot, he wouldn't cower. He wouldn't back down. This is a battle not just of strength, but of wills. So Grendel lunged, a blur of rage and muscle. Beowulf prepared for the attack and sidestepped with surprising agility for a man of his size. The beast slammed into a pillar, shaking the foundations of the hall. And with a roar that shattered the night, Grendel spun around, his eyes burning with rage. The battle that ensued was unlike anything Heorot ever witnessed. They grappled, their forms locked in a brutal struggle. Grendel, fueled by rage and monstrous strength, rained blows upon Beowulf. But the Geddish warrior, his muscles like iron bands, withstood the onslaught. Beowulf returned each blow with a ferocity that surprised even himself. Unlike the warriors who had faced Grendel before, Beowulf fought not with weapons, but with his bare hands. He knew that steel wouldn't pierce a creature's thick hide, and this would be a battle of pure strength and will. The fight raged on, a whirlwind of fists and muscles. The oak beams of Heorot groaned under the strain, threatening to collapse under the fury of their struggle. Dust motes danced in the moonlight as the floorboards splintered beneath their feet. Grendel's initial fury began to wane. He hadn't faced such a formidable opponent before, and this wasn't a mere chew toy. This was a warrior of near mythical strength. Fear, a primal instinct of survival, began to flicker in Grendel's eyes. Beowulf sensed this shift. He saw the fear. He saw the doubt. Seizing the opportunity, Beowulf lunged forward, grabbing Grendel by his massive arm, and with a surge of strength fueled by years of relentless training and unyielding will, Beowulf twisted the arm with an unnatural force. A bone-chilling crack echoed throughout the hall. It was followed by a monstrous scream. Grendel's arm, ripped from its socket, hung limply by his side. The beast, howling in pain, staggered back, his face contorted in agony. Blood spurted from the gaping wound, painting the floor crimson. Grendel, feeling his strength leave him, looked at Beowulf with a mixture of fear and rage. The fight wasn't over yet, and the monstrous creature lashed out with its remaining hand, aiming a blow at Beowulf's head. Beowulf ducked beneath the attack. He grasped Grendel's remaining arm and, with a final earth-shattering roar, slammed the creature into a supporting pillar. The pillar, unable to withstand the force, snapped, sending debris raining down upon them. Grendel, pinned beneath the rubble, let out a series of choked roars, the sound echoing with a desperate finality. Beowulf, battered but victorious, stood panting over the fallen beast, but he knew that the creature wasn't dead yet. Its strength was just broken, but its reign of terror was finally at an end. With a surge of adrenaline, Beowulf ripped a massive chunk from the collapsed pillar. He raised it above its head, its splintered end glinting in the moonlight. Then, with a mighty cry that echoed across the night, he plunged the wood shard into Grendel's chest, delivering the final blow. A guttural gurgle escaped the monster's throat, followed by a deafening silence. Grendel's body twitched once, then lay still. The silence in Heorot was absolute, broken only by Beowulf's ragged breaths. He had done it. He had vanquished the beast that plagued the Danes for so long. Slowly, cheers erupted from outside the hall. Warriors who fled in terror earlier, a mixture of relief and awe etched on their faces. They had witnessed a battle unlike any other, one that had nearly ripped their mead hall apart. Beowulf emerged from Heorot, his body bruised and battered, but his head held high. He was greeted by a throng of cheering warriors, their voices rising in a chorus of praise. Hrothgar, tears glistening in his eyes, embraced Beowulf with a gratitude that transcended words. News of Beowulf's victory spread far and wide. His name whispered with reverence in every corner of the land. Bards composed songs of his courage. He had become a legend, the man who had slain the monster and brought peace back to Heorot. But as the celebration reached their peak, a nagging question lingered in Beowulf's mind. Why had Grendel, a creature of immense strength, chosen to terrorize Heorot night after night? What drove him to such acts of violence? The answer really is, Beowulf would soon discover that Grendel lived in desolation. He was isolated, which turns into a breeding ground for resentment and a constant reminder for everything Grendel was denied. He wanted companionship. It's a story of monstrous rage, but a profound loneliness that festered into something far more horrifying. He wanted to be social. He wanted friends. He wanted what everyone else had. All right, that's all I got for today. Thanks for listening. If you like it, hit that subscribe button for us. If you don't like it, that's okay too. Other than that, have a great day.